5,000 tons of cargo vanished in less than 40 minutes. And with it, the illusion that the Caspian Sea was untouchable. The sinking of Port Olia 4 wasn't just an attack, it was a warning. Key routes thought to be protected by geography were suddenly exposed, and within hours, ships across the region were shutting off transponders, unsure of who might be watching. If a single operation can rewrite the rules of an entire sea, what does that mean for every vessel still sailing in those waters? That's the story you're about to see unfold. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. A single cargo vessel, anchored deep in the Caspian, seemed immune to threats, until a fleet of drones proved otherwise. Port Olia 4 stretched 360 feet from bow to stern, its black hull stacked high with containers heavy with steel, alloys, and tightly sealed crates. Official manifests suggested agricultural machinery, but every intelligence channel pointed to something very different. Through the Vuller-Don Canal, this North Korean freighter carried cargo that would not feed families or build cities. It carried weapons powerful enough to equip an army in the air, hiding in plain sight under the flag of commerce. The geography of the Caspian Sea had always made it appear untouchable. Bordered by 5 countries, it is locked away from the world's oceans, with no direct route from the Mediterranean or the Persian Gulf. Russia relied on this geography like a protective wall, assuming that what entered these waters could not be touched by foreign hands. Analysts often compared the Caspian to an inland fortress, where vessels could dock and reload outside the reach of hostile militaries. Maps and satellite models reinforced that idea for decades, until Ukraine proved otherwise. Inside the hull of Port Olia 4 were shipments that changed the calculation instantly. Satellite readings confirmed pallets of avionics to guide drones with precision, gyroscopes critical to missile stabilization, and hundreds of crates containing lightweight rocket systems. Small engines for pilotless aircraft were stacked beside bundles of wiring and sensors. By volume, the ship held enough supply to arm tens of thousands of drones. Each crate wasn't just metal and plastic. It was flight endurance, strike power, and the ability to swarm. If unloaded safely, these items could be assembled into wave after wave of aerial machines, capable of hammering cities and frontline units for months. That scale turned Port Olia 4 into more than a freighter. It was a floating factory, a mobile extension of the defense industry. Remove one box and nothing changed. Remove the ship, and entire strike plans would collapse. Ukrainian military observers understood this distinction. The vessel was not just transport, it was infrastructure, a moving warehouse that kept drone production alive far from outside scrutiny. The challenge was simple to describe, but nearly impossible to achieve. How do you hit a ship resting in waters surrounded by Russian allies, sitting more than 700 miles inland from open conflict? Geography provided cover, and air defense along the routes was thick. To strike here meant threading a path across multiple radar nets, electronic listening posts, and layered security that had never been tested against such a mission. Destroying Port Olia 4 wasn't just about sending drones across a border. It carried the risk of escalation inside a space considered untouchable for centuries. Ukraine answered with a plan both precise and relentless. 87 weapons were assigned to one ship. Among them, 14 long-range UJ-26ER drones capable of carrying heavy payloads. Their routes were masked by deception systems designed to trick surveillance radars into believing the swarm had scattered. Electronic warfare pulses blinded tracking corridors for just long enough to let the strike elements slip through. Other decoys mirrored heat signatures so Russian units scrambled toward false targets. Coordinated timing ensured that electronic jamming, drone approach, and strike waves overlapped perfectly, overwhelming defenses instead of testing them one by one. The first major payoff came before a single drone launched. Ukrainian operators confirmed the ship's exact anchorage using Japanese commercial satellites, cross-checking with radio frequency intercepts from fishing vessels and even open-source videos posted by civilians along the Caspian shoreline. Intelligence itself became the decisive weapon, narrowing thousands of square miles into one vulnerable point. Precision wasn't guessed. It was verified across sources invisible to the ship's crew. If the cause was intelligence paired with 87 secret weapons, the effect would ripple far beyond one wreck resting at the bottom of the Caspian. By the time Port Olia 4 slipped beneath the surface, the real damage was just beginning for the entire Caspian region. The strike itself unfolded in a sequence designed for maximum disruption. Drones slammed into the stern first, igniting fuel reserves and sending flames running across the deck. Another wave tore into the bow, rupturing compartments below the waterline and flooding cargo holds with thousands of tons of seawater. A third group struck midship, shredding through containers and scattering burning debris into the water. Within minutes, the vessel listed heavily, smoke pouring upward like a black signal across the sky. And then the hull gave way, dragging 5,000 tons of cargo into the depths. A single ship destroyed might seem like a tactical victory, but the question left behind was larger. How could one sinking alter the rules for every vessel in an enclosed inland sea? The Caspian had never seen this kind of strike. For decades, operators believed that its isolation protected traffic, that long inland distances made aggressive attacks unworkable, and that the risk to commercial trade was too high to ignore. All of those assumptions collapsed alongside Port Olia 4. Insurance markets registered the first ripple within hours. Shipping firms contacted brokers asking whether policies covered drone strikes. Premiums spiked overnight, sometimes doubling for routes that touched known resupply hubs. For smaller carriers, the spike didn't just hurt profit. It forced them to scrap routes altogether, leaving shelves half-stocked and forcing governments to push alternative supply corridors. What was once a straightforward transport decision suddenly meant weighing whether a ship could even leave port without bleeding money through insurance alone. Behavior on the water changed just as quickly. Captains began masking vessel identities, altering digital signatures to appear as fishing boats or local tankers. Many shut down automatic tracking systems altogether, something unheard of in civilian operations on the Caspian. Others rerouted to longer passages, hugging shallow coastlines rather than crossing central waters, which created traffic bottlenecks at narrow stretches never built for heavy use. The effect was almost immediate. Shipping slowed, queues built up off smaller ports, and trade moved at half its normal pace even without a single follow-up strike. That shift revealed the most important twist of all. Geography had been the Caspian's shield, a natural argument for safety that required no active defense. With Port Olia 4 lost, the sea was no longer a sanctuary but a contested zone where any vessel risked attack. The idea that rivers, canals, and miles of inland terrain could act as barriers was shattered in one night. The human side of the fallout was impossible to ignore. Civilian crews sailing bulk carriers or oil barges suddenly lived with the constant fear of drone shadows overhead. Workers who had never functioned under combat conditions flinched at radar echoes or strange aerial noises. Entire shifts passed with sailors refusing to go topside at night, convinced another swarm could be arriving. Routine freight operations became a psychological grind, turning basic voyages into nervous trials where every delay felt like waiting for something to strike. Ports adjusted by pulling tugboats and patrol craft from high-traffic commercial lanes to escort vulnerable cargo ships, often in small convoys. While it offered reassurance on paper, it drained manpower from busier docks where hundreds of vessels required support. That reallocation slowed offloading, left ships waiting at anchor for days, and raised costs across the region. Each decision to protect vulnerable passages created another problem elsewhere, strangling trade flow with unexpected constraints. The sinking of Port Olia 4 revealed something far greater than a destroyed cargo ship. It showed how technology can erase natural borders, turning distance and geography into illusions of safety. With drones able to reach deep into enclosed waters, no region remains beyond the reach of conflict. If the Caspian, long considered a sanctuary, can be transformed into a battlefield overnight, then what seas or skies are truly safe? These events are not just military encounters. They are signals that global trade, supply chains, and regional security frameworks can be upended in hours, leaving entire nations scrambling for stability.